Hey, what is going on, guys? Comrade 64. How you guys doing today? And for today's video, I'm gonna be talking about I'm gonna do doing I'm gonna be doing another fun what if video of what if this game did this or had this instead. Something like that. In a way. Like what if it's this game had guest caterers or something like that. You know, kind of similar to like what I did in my what if Samus Aran was a guest caterer in Dead or Alive Dimensions. Samus Aran from Metroid was she was a guest kid in Dead or Alive Dimensions. But I think what would have been better for me to say is that what if she was a playable character instead? I should have probably said that instead of what if she was a guest character. Honestly, I kind of wasn't thinking too deep into it. I don't think I was making it sound right in a way. So if I probably might redo that video, maybe, or probably just leave it the way it is. But I think I'm gonna leave it. I did make some edits, so there's that, something like that. But for this video, since it's going to be something somewhat similar, and this video is going to be about what if Sonic and Sega All Stars Racing had console exclusive guest characters. Now, the concept of console exclusive guest characters is something I've always been fascinated with. Now, sure, console exclusive guest characters. The sad truth is, it's kind of it's some in a way it's someone is kind of the thing a thing in the past now. You know, it was something like huge, when Soul Calibur 2 did it, with, Heihachi from Tekken for the PlayStation 2 version, Link from The Legend of Zelda for the GameCube version, and Spawn from Image Comics as, Spawn from Image Comics, Top Spawn's Image Comics for the Xbox version, and, you know, because that just felt like, it was one of the, like a special moment, in gaming history, honestly. And honestly, I think it was one of the best things that ever happened. And honestly, I would have loved if something like that, happened again, you know. But, it seems like, we're kind of far past that time now, unfortunately, which kind of stinks a bit. But, I guess it is what it is. But I do kind of have somewhat a little bit of hope that that trend does somewhat come back, at least maybe temporarily, or maybe like once in a while. I just think it'd be a fun thing to do, to see what each each different console could have that makes them different and stand out from each other. Oh, excuse me, something like that. I just ate two apples. Yeah, remember, eat apples. They're really good for you. All right. So in this video, I'm gonna be talking about what if Sonic and Sega All Stars Racing had console exclusive guest characters for each console. Well, funny enough, the game actually did in a way somewhat did have console exclusive guest characters in a way. You know, Banjo Kazooie, was the console exclusive guest character for the Xbox 360 version and was pretty cool. And apparently Mario. So yeah, Sonic and Sega All Stars Racing. You know, I'm bringing it up here on Google. I know, I mean Wikipedia. It came out back in February 23rd, 2010. So this game is basically over a decade old, and it was kind of cool. I do remember buying the game for the DS, getting the DS version of the game, and for because my little brother he had the DS at the time, and I brought the game, and we had fun, playing it. It was really awesome. Yeah, I now the 360 version, I did download the demo for that, and that's about it. But other than that, I never played any of the other versions. I only played the 360 version and the DS version, both the DS version and the 360 version. Bless you, excuse me. And that's pretty much about it. But I never played any of the other consoles or other versions. And I think all the versions are pretty much the same, with the exception of the DS version. Honestly, I think I mean, the DS version did seem very different from the console versions, from what I remember. Now, since that Banjo Kazooie was basically the only guest character in the game, apparently, I guess there were apparently we actually kind of found out, that there were other characters that were planned for to be in the game. Toe Jam and Earl was planned to be in the game, but they never got in. Vice from Skies of Arcadia, he was in talks. I mean, I think he was talked about, and Sega Saturn, was considered riding a Sega Saturn. And funny enough, interesting enough, in early development, Mario from the Super Mario Bros. Series was considered as a Wii exclusive edition, but Sega decided against it, so as not to cause cross communication with its Mario and Sonic series, which is I'm reading right now on Wikipedia. So Mario, he didn't get in the Wii exclusive version because you know Sega didn't want to cross stuff like that. Didn't want confusion with cross communication stuff like that. Now, I mentioned in my earlier video that apparently it was Nintendo that decided against it because because Nintendo they didn't want to like confuse like Kevin compete against Mario Kart Wii. I was kind of confused that time. I got it wrong that time. I got my facts wrong that time, but now I revisit it and look at it and see that that wasn't the case. But personally, guys, I do think Mario would have been cool to see, honestly. Which I think is kind of a bummer that you know bummer. I mean, Mario probably would have been really cool to see, honestly. It sucks and it's fortunate that he never got in. But we're doing like let's do like this what if alternate timeline. Like what if Sega and Sonic All Stars Racing had console exclusive guest characters? So we're gonna scratch off the 360 version because the 360 version already has Banjo Kazooie, so that's checked off. Now we're gonna start with the Wii version, and lastly we're gonna get with the PS3 version. You know, because no, also since the 360 also had the Xbox avatars and the Wii version had the Mii's. So and PlayStation pretty much had nothing, honestly. I don't know. I don't think the PlayStation 3 had any of those avatar like characters from what I remember. It's been a while since I know that. I don't remember too much. But anyway, so the Wii version, I'll probably make. I have a couple of choices that I think would be good choices. Now, at first, I was going to say Mario, and I thought maybe Mario probably would have been a great addition, honestly. But because since that Sega was the one that shot the idea down because they didn't want to like confuse people across promotion with the Mario and Sonic series, yeah, the Mario and Sonic series. So we'll scratch out Mario and other Nintendo characters. What other Nintendo characters can we add instead of Mario instead? Now, I'm not gonna add Donkey Kong because, well, I guess we could, but then again, he was in the Mario Kart Wii. Donkey Kong is always in every Mario Kart game. Um, I guess as much we could add him. I guess, well, sure, why not? But I kind of think that maybe this could be an opportunity to like this probably would have been a great opportunity to give other Nintendo characters like a huge spotlight and something. So one of the other deciding characters that I have are so we're not gonna add Link, we're not gonna add Samus. No, honestly, I guess Link probably would have been fine and Samus, but Samus could work, but she would seem like a bit of an odd choice, especially since that Metroid doesn't seem to be much of a kid friendly, uh, your typical kid friendly Nintendo franchise. Honestly, on the older games they were fine, but then the later games kind of got dark read and stuff. So Nintendo characters I will make exceptions for. So the Nintendo characters that I will probably choose as as a console exclusive guest character for the Wii, but not just for the Wii version, but also for the DS version as well. And I'm going to count down to two characters, and these two characters are Kirby and Fox. Now, at first, I originally thought maybe how about just Fox McCloud, honestly, But I also thought that maybe there are other Nintendo characters that will probably be good suit as well. You know, so here's the thing. So I'll probably go with Fox McCloud because Star Fox. I don't know if Star, but this is just me. Fox seems like a great character to who I think would probably fit in. I mean, so Kirby will fit too. And to be honest, I do think Nintendo will probably go with Kirby, honestly, but that's mainly because I think because Kirby is the bigger franchise between the two. That's why I think that. But but I think that Fox will make a better choice, honestly, because because it's just the way I look at it. I think it'd be very cool in a way. Now, to be honest, if like Sega were to ask Nintendo for a guest character, and let's say Sega asks Nintendo for like a different Wii exclusive guest character, a different Nintendo character that can be Wii exclusive, the Wii exclusive character to Sonic and Sega also is racing. You know, let's say that first Nintendo pitches Mario, but Sega shoots it down because they didn't want to, like I said earlier, what confuse people would think like it's connected to the Mario Sonic series, which unfortunately we're never gonna get ever again, unfortunately, which is a bummer. But hey, rest in peace to that franchise. And we never got like a 2024 Olympics, something like that. But let's say Sega asks Nintendo, hey, well, we're not gonna put Mario because we don't want to confuse people with Mario and Sonic Olympic Games franchise. So how about you just as a different Nintendo character? And to be honest, now in all seas, I do think Nintendo will probably have to go with either Kirby or maybe even Donkey Kong, honestly, because those characters, Kirby and Donkey Kong, are both bigger characters than Fox McCloud because Star Fox is pretty much a franchise that had been in limbo. But maybe Nintendo could decide to just go with Fox. But realistically, that's kind of feel like they'll probably go with either the characters from the bigger franchises that are massive selling well, and they're having new games going on nonstop. They probably would go with either Donkey Kong or Kirby, or I guess maybe Link if they wanted to. Honestly, but for me personally, I think Fox would have been a better choice. Would be somewhat of a better choice, but that's just the way I see it. Or maybe they could have chose a totally different Nintendo character, not Donkey Kong, not Link, not Kirby, not Fox, or even Samus, or like maybe some different Nintendo characters. Pikachu, I doubt because or I guess maybe Captain Falcon. But then again, honestly, again, Nintendo will probably want to go with any of their bigger characters, the characters from the franchise that massively sell well. You know, you know, that's just the way I look at it. So, but I'll probably go with Fox McCloud as the Weaver in the Wii exclusive character, but also the DS exclusive character as well, because the Wii and the DS both created by Nintendo. So Fox McCloud, I would have him as the console exclusive guest character for the Wii version. So we got the Wii version scratch out. Now for the PS3 version. And now for the PS3 version, this is going to be definitely an obvious and very fun pick. Obvious and definitely this character. Honestly, I think this character should have been the guest character for the PS3 version from the very beginning. Now, this isn't just one character. I guess you could say two characters, but mainly one character because there's one character who's doing most of the work, mostly doing everything. And this one character is who I'm gonna have as the console guest character for the PlayStation 3 version of Sonic and Sega Racing, also Racing, and that character is drumroll please, Ratchet and Clank. Yes, you heard me, Ratchet and Clank. Honestly, I'm actually kind of even baffled to why they never even considered this. Why they never considered having Ratchet and Clank as console exclusive guest characters or exclusive guest character for the PlayStation 3 version of the game. Like, I'm just because Ratchet and Clank was actually, believe it or not, because at the time, when the game was released, like before the game was released, and even after the game was released, Ratchet and Clank was pretty much Sony's and PlayStation's golden boy at the time. Ratchet and Clank had like a lot of games. For the PS2, PS3, Ratchet and Clank was pretty much riding the high seas, the high horses. It was like it was, you know, PlayStation's huge moneymaker at the time. Honestly, you know. Now I'm gonna look on Wikipedia once again to see how many games this game had. Yeah, so let's see. So before 2010, Ratchet and Clank had one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. So Ratchet and Clank had 8 games. One in 2002, one in 2003, one in 2004, one in 2005, one in 2005, one in 2000. Wait, two in 2007. No, wait, two in 2005, two in 2007, one in 2008. No, two in 2008, and one in 2009. So yeah, Ratchet and Clank had basically had 8 games before then. You know, so Ratchet and Clank was basically PlayStation's, like I said, golden boy at the time. Ratchet and Clank had like a lot of games. I'm actually surprised that ne- Sega never considered axing Ratchet and Clank, axing Sony. Hey, would it be alright if we put Ratchet and Clank as a guest character in the PlayStation 3 version of Sonic and Sega All Stars Racing? Like either they go up and axe Sony, or either Sony axe them. But I do think if Sega would have axed, Sony would have been fine with it, and I do think if Sony even if Sony asked him, I'm sure Sega would be like, sure, why not? Because like Banjo Kazooie, I'm not sure. I don't really know why he got in. Wait, I think I do know probably the reason why he got in. Wait, I think was he let in just to promote that Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bolts that game that came out the 360. Awful game, by the way. I mean, I didn't like it that much, and I know a lot of people didn't. But it's. I think I might replay it again to see how it holds up again. It's been years since I played it, so I don't know if like either Sega X, Microsoft, if they can put Banjo in, or Microsoft X if Banjo can get in. But if Sega was fine with letting Banjo in, I'm pretty sure they would be fine with letting Ratchet and Clank in. If they were fine with letting Banjo in, and sure they weren't fine with letting Morrow in, but maybe they probably would have been fine if they let a different Nintendo character in. And I think they would have been fine with letting Ratchet and Clank in as the PS3 exclusive character for the PS3 version of Sonic and Sega All Stars Racing. I'm just kind of surprised that that they never considered this. Honestly, it was kind of baffling, but it also feels like it's a great marketing move in a way. And like if they want to like promote their games, like Ratchet and Clank, All for One came out in 2011, a year later. So maybe they could have add Ratchet in that game to like maybe help promote that game, All for One. Honestly. And unfortunately, I never got to play All for One all the way through because at the time when I got the game, my old PS3 was starting to like somewhat shut down. Like it was that I think it was that red light of death thingy or yellow light of death. Well, you play the game and then it like shuts off. Honestly, real bummer. Honestly, but aside from that, honestly, Ratchet and Clank would have been overall. Ratchet and Clank would have been a great addition to the PS3 version of the game. Honestly, I'm just kind of surprised. How come they never thought about that? Like really, how come they never thought about that? You know, sometimes companies, you know companies sometimes they can think outside the box, and sometimes they kind of can't, honestly. Or maybe there's a possibility that maybe Sega they probably did consider maybe having a console exclusive guest character for each console, but you know at the last minute they decided not to. So, like for example, like with Mario, back with the Mario thing, like I don't know if Sega, if there was, if at first they were fine with Mario being a console exclusive guest character for the Wii version of the game, Wii version of Sonic and Sega also was racing. Like maybe I don't know if it was Nintendo that suggested Mario to them, or they asked if they can put Mario in the game. And maybe either way, like either side, Mario he was scheduled to get in, and Sega said yes, or Nintendo said yes, and maybe yeah he was planning to be in, and then Sega decided not to, like, or maybe either maybe Nintendo chose decided not to, but when the Wikipedia it says Sega, so obviously Sega was probably the one that backed down on the idea. So you know, because maybe there are some more behind the scenes, stuff about Sonic and also Racing Transformer that we don't know about. Maybe there are some more details that probably could be revealed in the future someday. Like with the Marvel versus Capcom games, all some of the Capcom Marvel games made by Capcom. We actually years later we actually found out more news about how there are other characters that were planned to be in the game. There are other characters that were considered, like the Kingpin. He was considered for Marvel vs. Capcom 3, but they skipped out because they chose not to add him in because they thought he will have like a boring moveset. And the Human Torch from the Fantastic Four was planned to be the Fantastic Four rep for Marvel vs. Capcom 3. But because since he was on fire the whole time, and they actually think made like a moveset for him, and they made like a model for him. But since he was on fire too much, he eat up most of the game data and caused the game to slow down. And they told Marvel, and Marvel basically suggested them Super Scroll because he had all the Fantastic Four powers. And honestly, I do think Super Scroll was a cool way to go, honestly, because he's all the Fantastic Four rolled into one. And speaking of Fantastic Four, the Thing, he was considered as well, but they thought he'd be too similar to the Hulk. And there were other Marvel and Capcom characters that were all considered in talks. Yeah, so maybe somewhere down the line in the future, we can find out more information about, like, not just Sonic and Sega All Stars Racing, but also Sonic and All Stars Racing Transform, and even the other Sonic games, Team Sonic Racing Crossroads, of characters that were planned to be in the game, characters that were considered, and characters that were scrapped. You know, I mean, the only way we can find out this week if maybe if we can contact most of these game developers and try to see if we can get more information about it. You know, so maybe somewhere down the line, maybe we might get some more information about maybe Sonic and Sega All Stars Racing Transformer and the other Sonic games about their history, about their development and such. But I do think Ratchet and Clank would have been a great addition as a PS3 guest character, console exclusive guest character for the game. Kind of like how Banjo Kazooie was a console guest character for the Xbox 360 version of Sonic and Sega All Stars Racing. The 360 version of the game. But it's just kind of cool to imagine like a what if. And there you have it. Those are all the characters that I will have for the console exclusive guest characters for each of the console version. So Banjo Kazooie for the 360 version, Ratchet and Clank for the PS3 version, and Fox McCloud for the Wii version. Or we can skip off Fox McCloud and put a different character. Well, this is how I would have the roster. But speaking, if it was Nintendo or Sega, or I think possibly maybe Nintendo, because since they'll be suggesting the characters, honestly, maybe Sega can ask the character, but it ultimately has to be up to Nintendo to decide if they're fine with the character getting in. You know, and let's say Sega decides, so Sega shoots on Mario, and they decide not to add Mario, but they ask for a different Nintendo character instead, and Nintendo has to be the one that makes the decision. I think Nintendo will probably either go with either Donkey Kong, Kirby, or some other Nintendo character. Fox McCloud or Captain Falcon, they will be great choices, but like I said before, looking at Nintendo will probably go with characters that are their best sellers for franchises that are the best sellers. And knowing that Star Fox and F Zero both are franchises that are somewhat didn't particularly have that many games at the time. The last Star Fox game was Star Fox Assault, which came out in 2005. And last year that game turned 20 years old. No, a couple months ago. And F Zero didn't have a game since 2003. So GX, which came out in 2003. So and Star Fox didn't get a new game until 2011. Star Fox Command. Wait, hold on. Let me see. Yeah, what year did Star Fox Command come out? Let's see. No. Star Fox Command came out in 2006. I'm actually confusing with the Star Fox 64 remake on the 3DS. Honestly, my bad. Comrade 64, what are you doing? You gotta know your stuff, dude. This is all right. Hold on. Let's see. Yeah, the 3D version. So yeah, it came out in Japan on July 14th, 2011. Uh, North America and Europe in September 9th, 2011. Australia on September 15th, 2011. Uh, KO, what is that? What is that? Oh, Korea in August 30th, 2012. And China on March 15th, 2013. So yeah, you know, that's pretty much kind of it. Yeah. So I do think, maybe Fox McCall still could have get in as maybe like to promote the the 64 remake coming to the 3DS. That would have been cool. Yeah, sometimes like I mentioned this in one of my earlier videos that sometimes why characters appear as guest characters in other games is also just basically to promote their upcoming games. Like with PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale, a game that Ratchet and Clank was in. The DMC Dante, Raiden from Metal Gear Rising, Heihachi. And I think, and Isaac Clarke to promote the new Dead Space game, Dead Space 3, I think, and I think Big Daddy was in there to promote a Bioshock game. So yeah. So if Nintendo really wanted, you know, wanted to promote Star Fox, you know, 3DS remake on the 3DS, they could have added Fox in the game. Sonic and Sega All Stars Racing Racing, not Transform. Sonic and Sega All Stars Racing. I get confused with the two. I gotta remember that song. Transformed is the second game. But yeah, and also speaking about Transform, what if that game had consequences guest characters as well? I might make a video about that too someday, maybe. Uh yeah. So So those are the characters I would have. Ratchet and Clank, Banjo Kazooie, and Fox McCloud. I mean Banjo Kazooie already got in reality, but Fox and Ratchet I would have them be, consequence characters for the Wii and PS3 respectively. It would have been awesome to see, honestly. It's too bad it didn't ever happen, but it would have been awesome to see nonetheless. But yeah, and also, if they do add Donkey Kong, they could add Donkey Kong to promote Donkey Kong Country Returns, and if they had Kirby, they could have promote the new Kirby's new upcoming game, like at the time, that Kirby game for the Wii, Return to Dreamland, I think it's called. You know, no, it's not Return to Dreamland. It's Kirby something. Yeah, Return to Dreamland. That would have been awesome. So yeah, um, that's it for this video. Honestly, you guys, let me know what do you think of my choices. Or just do you guys think that it would have been cool to see, Ratchet and Clank, as the console guest character for the PS3 version, and Fox McCloud for the Wii version, or any of the Nintendo characters, Fox, Ratchet and Clank, seeing them actually appear in the game. Do you think this would have been cool if we had this in real life? Like, let's say if we got this like in an alternate timeline or something. Do you guys think this is something that should have happened, or you think, oh, it's not a big deal? It is what it is. I'm fine with what we have. But it's always fun to speculate like a what if. And speaking of what if, I'm gonna have more what if videos coming on in the future. So be on the lookout for those. And I got a lot of fun, awesome ideas for what if videos, like what if this happened or what if this happened. So and I'm thinking about making a playlist of what if videos. Players of what if videos. You know, this might be a new series that I might do. What if? The What If series on my YouTube channel. You guys want to see that? Feel free to let me know in the comment section below. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And I'm going to have more upcoming videos coming out in the future. So yeah, this is Comrade64. Sign out. Peace out, guys. And keep on racing. Like the announcer from F-Zero GX says. Also, another thing that I forgot to mention in the video is that having Ratchet, Banjo, and Fox all together in the game as console exclusive guest characters, I think it's a perfect way to go because you have three anthropomorphic animals in a racing game with, you know, with a franchise, the leading franchise that Sonic the Hedgehog that's about an anthropomorphic character or anthropomorphic characters in general. You know, so yeah, Fox, Banjo, and Ratchet a perfect choice. What do you guys think? You know, that's something I forgot to mention in the video. You think Banjo, Fox, and Ratchet are a great choice as console exclusive guest characters? It is. I personally think so, and I personally think this is something that definitely should have happened. You know, Banjo, Ratchet, and Fox for sure. What if? Well, you know, if only. You know, but yeah, I forgot to mention that. You know, that is just the perfect way to go. Anthropomorphic animals rock. We love them. So yeah, and that's it. That's all I want to say. And peace out, guys. Goodbye, everybody, and keep on racing.